Hello friends, early 2000s Julian Casablancas here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, and in this video we're going to be covering how to play Mars by virtue of looking at Kuku playing a high-rated pub, playing Mars in the offlane. And I think there's a decent amount of Mars content on YouTube already, of course, because it's the new hero, but there's not an awful lot of it. It's covering what professional players are actually doing with the hero right now. So, without further ado, let's get into it. In terms of starting items, Kuku goes for Stout Shield, 2 Enchanted Mangoes, 1 Iron Branch, and then 2 Tangos. The Stout Shield is relatively obvious. He's a melee hero who's going to be looking to trade in the laning phase, so therefore he goes for Stout Shield because that is the most effective item for doing that in the game. Even if you're a support Mars or a support that's just a melee hero in general, if you're looking to trade, you want a Stout Shield, although he has a 3 Mars. He's going for 2 Enchanted Mangoes, and the reason for this is because Mars has relatively high mana costs, and early on into the game, at level like 2 or 3, you can kill people with your level 2 Spear, level 1 God's Rebuke, or level 2 God's Rebuke, level 1 Spear. But in any case, both of these spells cost about half of Mars's mana if you use both of them to do a kill combo, and if you want to do that a couple of times, then you're going to need a few mangoes. And the reason he doesn't just have a bunch of mangoes or 3 mangoes is because eventually he's going to build into a soul ring. So just in general, 2 mangoes is enough to tide you over until you get that soul ring. And of course he has the Iron Branch. That's just because he bought 2 Tangos, which are the most efficient form of regen, and then the Iron Branch is because he had a little bit of gold left over, and you want to have those stats because this hero pressures early on into the game. So one very important thing that I want to point out about how Kuku lanes in this game is that he consistently pulls the creep wave such that there are creeps hitting his range creep and creeps in another group. Usually it hits the other range creep, but in this case, the creeps were just split into 2 groups. One was melee creeps fighting melee creeps, the other was melee creeps fighting range creeps. But essentially, the reason that he did this is because there's a few reasons, but essentially, there's a Bat Rider in this lane against him, so this is going to be a hard lane for a Bounty Hunter Mars to deal with. It's a magic damage hero. Bat Rider kind of destroys most melee heroes unless they have some way to purge the sticky napalm. So if he pulls the creeps in this way, you can see that the PA is over dealing with the creeps getting the last hits, and then Bat Rider is tanking a huge wave on his own, harassing the Mars. So essentially the creeps have split into 2 groups, and this allows Mars, Kuku, to just have to deal with the Bat Rider instead of the Bat Rider plus the PA. The PA would have to sacrifice last hits in order to come over and attack Mars, but because he was only level 1, he couldn't do that. This is also just something in general that you do. If you pull the creeps so that they split up, that gives you an opportunity to start hitting the creeps. As you can see, he's constantly hitting the creeps, even using his nuke to push the creep wave, and the reason for this is because this is a lane that is relatively hard for them, and because it's relatively hard, the way that he's applying pressure is by using the creeps to apply pressure. He's basically hitting the creeps such that there is a large wave pushing into the opponents so that this Bat Rider, this PA, cannot pressure him like they would be able to if it was an even distribution of the amount of creeps that were on both sides. They have this range creep to last hit here. They have all of these creeps that would hit them if they were to try to harass Mars. So at a certain point, the Bounty Hunter pulls the side camp, and essentially what they're looking to do is just keep pushing the lane, getting that creep advantage, and then pulling, pushing, pulling, pushing, pulling until they have kill potential. Because that's the thing about Mars, is he's very good at winning lanes that you would otherwise lose with other offlaners, because nobody can really push a lane as fast as he can. And then, at a certain point, you can kill the opponents. And usually that's like, once you get level 3, you're super strong. Especially if you have level 3, boots, stick. That's a really good time to start fighting and start killing. For the past couple of patches, there has been a slow transition in what people have been focusing on in the laning phase. And for a long time now, it's been about not getting denied. You would use spells to secure CS so you don't get denied. You would use spells to stun your opponents so they couldn't deny you. Basically, you use whatever you can to not get denied, and everything was about experience. But now, there just is a lack of gold on the map, and there's a lack of gold that comes from melee creeps, but range creeps give a shitload of gold. So essentially, in pro matches, as we'll see here, this is a pro level pub, people are using spells to get range creep blast hits. They're manipulating the creep wave so they can get range creep blast hits, and they're also using spells to prevent the enemy team from getting range creep blast hits. And it's not necessarily even about the deny, although you'd like to get the deny. It's about preventing them from getting that last hit, because it's worth so much that it's worth using your spells to prevent or to get them. And we can see here that we have Kuku. He sees this range creep is getting hit. He literally just skewers the PA to a tree. He's totally out of mana now. He wasn't going for a kill. It's not even that great for harass. It's literally just to prevent the range creep blast hit. And if he can do that enough, if he can prevent a couple of range creep blast hits and then get a couple of his own, he's going to have a gold advantage. He's going to have boots before the PA does, and then they can get a kill on them. Like, this essentially is what's going to make the difference in the laning phase of having an earlier kill potential where they're not going to be able to escape you because of items. As you can see, he does it again. In terms of skill build, Kuku goes for Max Spear of Mars, 2 points in God's Rebuke, 0 points in Bulwark, and then 1 point, of course, in Arena of Blood. And with the God's Rebuke, he basically uses it off cooldown to both secure CS and harass the PA. So we can see here in a second, he's going to just hit a creep such that it's low enough that he can use the God's Rebuke on it, and then he uses it to also harass the PA. So this is something that's just going to keep the PA at a low enough HP that he has a kill threat with the Spear of Mars, which is going to give him a free lane, and of course pressure the PA, pressure the Bat Rider to come up here. And what we can see with this camera movement is that he's constantly looking to see if there's somewhere that he can TP. And this is something that from all of the Mars replays that I've watched so far is relatively common, is that people look to get active from the moment you get your level 6. People will rotate to lanes because the ultimate is absolutely devastating at all points in the game, and honestly, it probably needs to be nerfed. So essentially, if you can just go use the ultimate, you can very easily just head back to the lane and keep doing the same thing, except you can completely prevent a gank from happening, and then you can turn it around and potentially get a tower. Like, this is one of the best defensive rotators in the game. If you rotate to the lane with that ultimate, it's almost a guaranteed kill. Most heroes cannot escape it at level 6. So once the laning stage ends, Kuku goes for a value point in Bulwark at level 8. And the reason for this is because once the laning stage ends, you're going to be potentially fighting, so you're tanking more than just a lowly PA harassing you in the lane. You might be cutting creep waves, you might be jungling, you might be tanking towers. There's a whole lot more that you could be tanking that you want that value point of 25% reduction for 1 point, and then of course if you level up, it's only 15%. So that value point is certainly value, but only if you're tanking stuff, and once the laning stage ends, obviously you're going to be tanking some stuff. But he still opts to max the God's Rebuke after the laning stage ends, just because this allows you to clear entire creep waves by using your Spear of Mars and then God's Rebuke. And then he goes for the 20 movement speed talent. I think the reason for this is just because 8 strength isn't all that much, and the movement speed along with the phase boots, the percentage movement speed increase, it's a lot of movement speed. Because this is a static amount, this is a percentage amount, and then the phase ability is also a percentage amount, so it's just super value if you get phase boots. In terms of the mid game, what Kuku does is relatively simple. He basically walks around just clearing creep waves because he can do it instantly, but he does it close to his team and keeps his camera moving to the locations that his team might look to fight. So essentially, he goes to a dangerous location, pushes the creep wave instantly with his Q and his W because he can, and then also if the enemy team goes on him, he's very tanky, but he looks to fight every single time his Arena of Blood is off cooldown. And that's what's interesting to me, is just that essentially he figures that even if a fight is on his side of the map for no particular reason, Mars is such a good fighting hero that it is worth it to just show up to everything, because if you're there, you will win the team fight. So essentially that's kind of the point that I got from this, is that with Mars, you fight, and it makes a lot of sense given his hero, given the character of the hero. But other than that, you want to also be just insta-killing creep waves, pushing in lanes constantly, very rarely jungling, and just looking to occupy the most dangerous area that you can and be that kind of tanky frontliner who's pushing in waves to the enemy team so they have to deal with it. In terms of item build, Kuku went for Vlad's Rush, brown boots into Vlad's, phase boots, then he goes for an Atos, which he uses to set up for ganks, he uses to set up for Spear of Mars, he uses to set up for the Arena of Blood into Spear of Mars combo, then he goes for Crimson Guard because in this game he's against a bunch of physical damage heroes. I think if he was against a bunch of magical damage heroes primarily, he'd probably go for a Pipe instead, and then he builds into a Blink. So essentially, I think the crucial items on this hero are Phase Boots, Vlad's, Atos, and then after that it's one sort of tanky aura item, then into Blink Dagger, because this hero with the Blink Dagger and the level 20 talent where Spear lasts for 1.5 seconds extra is absolutely nuts. You can basically win the game by just blinking into the enemy base and spearing somebody to a tower. I think another really important note in this game is how Kuku uses the Arena of Blood to fight. He doesn't try to hit some really sick 5-man Arena of Blood. He finds the target that's the most important and just says, fuck it. If I can just get them, I'll just get them. And that makes a lot of sense because the Spear of Mars only hits one unit. So Arena of Blood plus Spear of Mars combo only hits one unit, and you're basically guaranteed to kill that unit. So if you can just get that most important unit in there, that's really all that matters, especially in the late game like this. So we can see here, we have a team fight about to happen. I believe he sees Batrider, so he BKBs just in case he gets lassoed, because it's very important for him to get his Arena of Blood off. He sees the PA, he uses it on the PA, who he knows does not have BKB, uses the Spear of Mars into the side, and then they use every single thing on the PA because it lasts absolutely forever. So BKB usage and Arena of Blood usage, all for one hero, but now the enemy team has to run away because that is their strongest hero. And that's the insane thing about Mars in the late game, is that this Arena of Blood plus Spear of Mars is effectively something you can use like a Doom. It is almost guaranteed to kill one target no matter who they are, no matter what they have, because it is that strong. It does that much damage, and it does that much lockdown. It's very strong, and it's a 60-second cooldown, so there's no point in trying to hit some big 5-man Arena of Blood, because you're going to have one up in 60 seconds. He's going to have Arena of Blood up before PA is even back alive again. So basically they can just Arena of Blood, kill one person, and then have Arena of Blood for when they push high ground and that person buys back, which is incredibly strong if you're willing to use it on one target. At a certain point in this game, enemy team leaves the base, they kill enemy team, they go racks, enemy team tries to defend, they kill them in their base, and therefore they just take the throne, and then there's the, of course, fountain diving that happens with Mars and his shield and Crimson Guard that always happens in every single Mars game, and we will watch that here. But in any case, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy playing Mars. I have been. It's an amazing hero, super fun. Definitely needs some nerfs though, but hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.